Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I had a really good night tonight. Um, Basically, there was a fan screening of Truth or Dare, or In Bed with Madonna as it's known in Australia and outside of the US. Although the actual print was Truth or Dare. It was sold as In Bed with Madonna because that's what we know the film as. But when we actually watched it, it actually was Truth or Dare. So it was funny to actually see the title Truth or Dare up there on the screen. Um, the whole title of the documentary is Truth or Dare, On the Road, Behind the Scenes and In Bed with Madonna. And for some reason, I guess considering outside of the US, the game Truth or Dare itself is not that known. They just changed it to In Bed with Madonna, which of course is the most provocative portion of the title to actually use as a title. So it was great to see it. The actual, I'm guessing it was a Blu-ray, so it's not really a print, but the scan of the print is really good. The audio was amazing. And, you know, I mean, you haven't lived unless you've seen Madonna simulating masturbation on the big screen. Um, it was great. I love this film. And it was the perfect palate cleanser after the whole Madame X era to see Madonna at her best when she actually was revolutionizing the concert going scene as opposed to Madame X, where people were trying to claim she was revolutionizing the theatre scene and the concert scene when she really wasn't. And it was kind of sad to see people trying to because that's Madonna's brand, that she's revolutionary. So everything she does has to be a revolution, even if it's not. So it's a bit sad when people do that. I mean, give someone credit where it's due, but please don't make shit up just because. So what is there to say? It was just amazing. I remember I saw it as a kid. I was fairly lucky. I went with my brother and his girlfriend to go see a different movie, and when we were there, I saw a standee for the film, and we found out they were showing it because we didn't even know it was being shown because it had been on. You know, um, it wasn't its time that it was on. It was later on. So I just looked at it, and they of course knew I wanted to see that instead of the film we were seeing. So they just assumed and sent me off to that, and were pissed off that I went to see this film by themselves and didn't see the film with them that I was supposed to. But I went to see it by myself. I was underaged, so because I don't know, I've heard it had an R18 rating, but I've only ever seen it in Australia having an M15 rating, which is sort of in between R and M. I'm not quite sure the difference between American and Australian ratings. I used to know the difference, but apparently it was R18, and then it had about 47 seconds or 57 seconds or something, about a minute cut out of it, and that made into an M15 rating. So whether I've actually seen the uncut film or not, I don't know. I'm now wondering if there's a slightly different version that I haven't seen, or if we just were never as severe with the rating, and this is the same. Well, that was Truth or Dare, so I don't know. I have to work this out now. It's kind of bothering me now. I've seen this because I did a little bit of research because there are a few things I couldn't remember, like the exact dates. Like the film had its initial small premiere on May 10th, 1991, only 51 screens, and made a little bit of money. And then 2 weeks later, it had its proper worldwide release. I don't know how many screens, but it made about $3 million, made $2.8 million, and then it had made before that about 700,000 something. So it's 3.3 million it made in its opening. It was the number three, film at the box office. It didn't get number one, but considering it was just a little documentary, the little documentary that could, it made more money than the last music documentary that had, come before it. And it was the number one box office documentary film for 11 years until Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine came out. So it made $29.12 million in its opening, which is about 54.4 million in today's dollars. So it did pretty well. It only had a $5 million budget, I think, and that was everything. I think that was advertising and everything. Um, Now, the origins of the film, it originally was just supposed to be a HBO special, a little special about the concert, and then they were going to make a proper concert film. And then once they started doing it, the director said he basically felt that it had a Fellini-esque dysfunctional family element to the behind-the-scenes environment, and he found that really interesting. He thought there was a film there, and Madonna agreed. She paid for it. She was the executive producer, and they made it. They just basically just started filming. They started filming everything. She just said, film everything, and we'll edit it all and work it out later. So that's exactly what they did. They did 200 or 300 hours of filming. Took about a month for him to basically sort it out. And if you haven't seen it, obviously they did all the backstage stuff in black and white. The actual on stage they filmed. I always thought they filmed an American concert. I've heard they actually filmed the 3 concerts in France. And that is what the footage that we see in the film is, and that was done on 3 different nights. So they had all these different camera angles because they didn't have that many cameras to work with, so they had to do it over 3 different nights, apparently, and that's why it does look so brilliant. And it is amazing seeing Express Yourself on the big screen in high definition. It just was amazing. The detail you see, the things I didn't notice before. I mean, I grew up with the film. It was the first film I ever bought on video, and I didn't have a lot of videos. There weren't a lot of videos that they actually sold retail back in the day. Obviously, there were a lot of rental ones, but there weren't a lot. And the fact that it was sold, the fact that people, I mean, the Immaculate Collection had done really well. Justify My Love, the video single, had done really well. They were the first videos I ever bought, but Even Madonna was the first film I ever bought. And I'm pretty sure after school, when there was nothing on TV before prime time, I pretty much just was like, what Madonna video do I watch? Videos like Immaculate Collection and that, or do I watch Bev Madonna? And a lot of evenings after school, I just watched Bev Madonna, and everyone who knew me, everyone in my family, saw that film. It was always on. I was obsessed with it because, I mean, not knowing I was gay then, obviously this was a world that I knew, that I wanted to be a part of, that I knew sort of was sort of my sort of community. And that is one of the remarkable things about the film, is that it was one of the first mainstream gay films. You actually see gay people, just the backup dancers, just treated like normal people in an environment. They're just working like everyone else on the tour. They're performers, they're artists, they're people. And just things like the kiss with Gabriel and Slam. I mean, who had seen a kiss before that between gay men? On like there were no, my video store didn't have like a gay section. There were no gay films being shown on TV. That was years before Priscilla, Queen in the Desert, which was the first sort of gay movie that Australia really embraced, that I'm aware of. And I always look at life in the gay scene pre and post Priscilla, and I was a post Priscilla gay, so I was very lucky that it had been normalized on some level and acceptable on some level and commercialized on some level. And I'm just very lucky that I kind of came into the gay scene in kind of a sweet spot where there were a lot of clubs, a lot of venues. The scene was quite big before Grindr hit, and then all the gays just stayed home and went on Grindr instead of actually going out, and then all the clubs closed. And now we've got the environment now that we have, and it's very different. So I'm very lucky on a lot of levels. But this film, I mean, I've spoken to a couple of the dancers in the film, and I've said to them they were like my gay uncles. That it's so funny because I look at them now and they look so young, but when I was a little kid, they seemed like these adults, and I just loved the film so much. I looked at it and that was the world I wanted to live in. That was and it never seemed unusual to me. I watched it, it just seemed natural. Everyone around me was uncomfortable about it. I remember so many times people seeing the kiss scene and just the scenes with the gay guys, and I remember my mum was watching in the scene where Nikki runs out screaming, Oliver, Oliver, And I just said to him, oh, that he's the only straight one because all the rest are gay. Because I assumed it was something to do with the whole slam controversy and the joke, and like, oh, she couldn't resist him or something. She was running down. I assumed it was some joke or play on that. And I was sort of trying to explain to Mum why this person was like screaming and that, and she was just uncomfortable. And I just remember my brother and that seeing the kiss and people seeing the kiss, and everyone. I guess that was my coming out because everyone saw that I was. This was I was like embracing this. I understood this world, this environment that was depicted in this film, and it had an impact on people. A lot of people came out. It made it really acceptable for a lot of people. It is an amazing film, and Madonna just did that as a pioneer without even thinking. She just was like, "This is my life. This is normal. There's nothing wrong with this. Let's just show it." And she also knew it was going to be controversial and piss people off and get attention, but I don't think that was the intent in the beginning. Um, and I don't know, I just love everything about it. And it was very emotional, though. I found myself crying a lot in the film, um, but also because I watched it so often and so often, like in my life, and like it was always the first movie I watched whenever I moved house. It was always the first video I played or whatever, um, and like it just reminded me of all the times I watched it, all the people I watched it with, all the interactions, all the comments, all the things people said, and it was like they were all there with me again. And I find sometimes like it's like that with film, where you connect it to people and places that you've watched it, and then when you watch it, you bring all those things with you and with the film, and they're all part of it. And I found myself remembering all the times and all the things that things. I mean, my dad rang me during the film when it was on TV because my brother was there and he said, "Oh God, he'll be watching this." And my dad called me to see if I was watching In Bed with Madonna, and that's the only time my dad ever called me, like in my life, because I don't have a relationship with my father. I never really did, even when we lived together. And just little things like that that I remember. And when I watched it, so many things came back to me. And it was just amazing. I really loved it. I can't say anything else about it. I mean, it was set up by a guy called Ray Isaac, who's a Sydney DJ who loves Madonna, and he keeps putting on Madonna events. He does Madonna nights, and he's done screenings of other films. He did Who's That Girl? He's doing Blonde Ambition. He's doing Confessions. I think he's doing Body of Evidence. He does them in Sydney. He does them in Melbourne. I've had a few run-ins with him in the past where I wasn't happy with some of the events that he ran, and I had a go at him. But he's managing things very well, and I'm very glad that he's doing this because there aren't a lot of fans who are actually doing anything for the fans. But it's just been really great to see it, and I just can't say anything more about it. I just love it, and I don't really have time to do a proper, real analysis of the film in detail. I just really want to talk about my experience seeing it on the big screen, seeing it with other Madonna fans, just knowing everyone in the cinema knew we were all saying the lyrics, not lyrics, we're singing the lyrics and we were saying the lines, and we just knew all the moments, all the beats, all the parts, and people stayed through the credits, and it was just a great experience, and I really look forward to watching In Bed with Madonna. I mean, not Blonde Ambition next week, and whatever else he ends up screening. So I'm going to go. I've talked for nearly 14 minutes, and yeah, it was just an amazing experience. If you get the chance to see it on the big screen, do it. Films are always better on the big screen. Yeah, feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Still a lot of Madonna stuff to talk about after Madam X. Like I said, it was a good palate cleanser. And I'm looking forward to the next era. But until then, there's plenty to go over older stuff that I want to talk about because I just enjoy talking about it. Thanks, bye.